Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for Tiger Talk this month. This week, my guest is Krista Viella with Pride in the Tiger and with the school district. She wears lots of hats, but today we're talking about your Pride in the Tiger hats. So I think we did this probably a year ago about this time too. So we'll get a little update on Pride in the Tiger coming up soon. Before that though, like we do every month, I just want to talk about some things going on in the district, some general updates. We're at mid-year point of this year, and we've spent a lot of time this month reviewing our annual site continuous improvement plans, our action cards, and both our site and district operational plans. Just looking at the goals we set last fall and where are we at, how are we doing. This mid-year check time is a good time for us to look at what we identified as those top priorities last year, talking about what progress we're making towards them and what things we need to continue to work on for the rest of the year. So we've had some good conversations around that at all of the sites this year. On February 12th and 26th, we're holding early childhood screenings for the community. So anyone who has an early childhood student interested in getting them screened, you can give us a call at 507-929-2639. And they'll connect you with our early childhood department. This is for any child ages 3 through kindergarten, and they'll do the screening free of charge at the school. So I encourage you again to give us a call if you have someone in that age group and looking to be screened. It's 929-2639. Our early childhood services with special ed for students with some special needs, they can begin as young as birth. Our youngest children, those services occur in the home because that's a major piece of the involvement with the parents. And they continue to work on skill development even though the child provider might not be there. So work with the child and the parents during that time. Encourage skills within the daily routines of the child and family using everyday items that are already in the home. So just building those skills to help that child be successful even before they're to school age. So something that you can also contact early childhood about if you have some questions about or want to know more about that. Some of our families, of course, are more comfortable coming to school than receiving those services in their homes. So our early childhood family education has some services for families wanting that. Providers support families and students in that setting as well. There's a focus on helping families make connections with each other so they can offer support to one another and creating opportunities for students to interact as well. At Parkside this month, coming up, we got on March 7th, actually coming up next month, from 4 until 6 on March 7th, that evening, we're going to hold an open house. That's for the community to come and learn more about preschool and kindergarten options. Staff are going to be around, the classrooms will be open. Parents can register the children for the 24-25 school year and just get some questions answered that you might have about that. So again, that's March 7th from 4 until 6 at Parkside, and you'll see more information coming around for that opportunity. At the middle school, it's been a really busy month. A lot of things taking place there. A few highlights I want to call out. Some student things specifically. Clara P. was accepted into the middle school all-state orchestra. That's an audition program that she was part of for outstanding orchestra students from around the state. So congratulations to Clara with that. Urban J and Kenna R. were the first and second place winners of the 5th and 6th grade spelling bee, and Roman and Charles were the winners of the 7th and 8th grade spelling bee. So a lot of competition taking place with those things. Our middle school math team has been really successful this year. They took first place in the Southwest Chapter Math Counts competition at SMSU, where there were over 100 mathletes competing. Congratulations to that team. That team's actually going to be our presentation at our school board this next week. Our student council at the middle school recently raised over $500 in our Pennies for Patience drive. So that was a good competition between the kids. And I know we saw kids carrying handfuls of change and stuff to get some prizes for their classes with that. With middle schools for wrestling, Braden V and Levi K both qualified for 9th grade state wrestling tournament, where Braden finished runner-up. So congratulations to those guys and their successes with that. High school. A lot of things, of course, always taking place there as well. Semester 1 grades are in, and while they're not as great as they were last year, they still look better than they did in first semester at this point. Thanks to everyone, including students, for your hard work and improving your success there. Two of our 4 grades had 90% or more of students passing all of the classes. That's a big feat when you look at all that work that goes into that. And all of the grade levels compared to where they performed at the 15-week progress check, they have improved. So some good data taking place there, and that's a lot of work I know with the counselors at the high school as well. Big part of those talks, talking to kids working on that. We recently had Snow Week. That was the week of February 5th. The high school student council planned dress-up days each week. They had coordination during the week. And then the Winter Pep Fest happened on Friday the 9th. And then, of course, the Snow Week dance. That's probably the biggest piece for a lot of kids. That was Saturday night. We had over 300 kids attend that evening. So all I heard was that was a good event for our kids.
It's fun to see the kids get all dressed up.
It is, yeah. On February 6th, the 8th grade students from Samuel Lutheran, True Light, and Holy Redeemer, they visited our high school, learning more about registration process. You were probably part of all that. Yep. Got a tour of the high school, just starting to build that preparation for next year, thinking about starting to register for classes. The middle school students have the registration video they'll be watching next week, and the Lynn students are coming on 22nd. So all those feeder schools are starting to come through. And then high school registration meetings start taking place on February 21st. That's only a week away.
Yes.
Get kids registered for classes for next year.
It's hard to believe we're already thinking about next year.
It is.
It's time.
And it's every year it comes up faster and faster, it seems. So that registration all takes place in March, and then the real work begins in the office, because then we have to take all those registrations and start building a schedule around that. So it'll be fun to see what comes in, especially as we look at all the CTE work taking place and building up some more classes there. Maytech is also celebrating students. Quarter 3 started with a celebration of students who passed all of their classes in quarter 2. They had 9 students at that site that passed everything in quarter 2. And those students got rewarded with that, and continuing looking for opportunities for students that just need some extra time and support. I mean, that's our school where they're at Maytech because they're behind in credits, so looking at ways to support kids needing extra work. But 9 kids passing everything was a big accomplishment at that site too, so that's exciting. At our learning center, our CTI center, the welding and automotive students, they recently took a trip to the Lake Area Technical College in Watertown. They learned about programs and opportunities for continued ed in welding and automotive, as well as other areas. I know I've seen pictures of that. That is just an awesome program for our kids to get out there and see some of those things. A couple other things just to call out. We recently celebrated Alice Week. I don't know if celebrated is the right word, but we participated in Alice Week. It's a week that we define for ourselves. We train staff and students on Alice. It's a part of it's a professional development activity we did, but Alice is one of our safety trainings we do with our staff and students. It stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. So we talk about what to happen if there were to be an intruder in the schools, just so that we make sure everyone's prepared. We had the training week with the students, walking through all the different procedures with them. And then for staff that was hired since the last training, we just are training all of them again too. So we do that a couple times a year to make sure everyone is prepared and informed on what to happen if there should be something in our schools. Each building has also submitted an individual building testing plan, looking at state testings. It's also that time of year. They're looking at how to get everyone through all the different tests at different levels that happen. The site assessment coordinators are working on their plans that are building specific and laying out timelines for that. So that's all a lot of work taking place as we start to look at wrapping up this year and planning for the next year. So
yes, I feel like once February is done, look out, because it goes fast.
It goes fast.
Yes.
We're kind of, in our offices, we're kind of completely in next year mode by that point.
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
All right, so Krista, you're here. We're not going to talk about that part of your job right now. We're going to talk about Pride in the Tiger stuff. That's pretty exciting.
It is exciting.
I mean, we hear about the Pride in the Tiger Foundation, but let's just start off a little bit. What is Pride in the Tiger? So someone listening says, I don't know what that means. What is that, and what does Pride in the Tiger do?
So Pride in the Tiger Foundation is a nonprofit 501c3 that's sole purpose is to support any kind of educational enhancement for our students in Marshall's public and private schools. And so what we want to do is just provide opportunities by financially supporting, whether it's classrooms and some of the things that they want to do, maybe to enhance a lesson, field trips. Sometimes it's equipment. It can be a variety of things, as long as it supports kind of the general educational growth of our students. And then we also have scholarships that we give for students who are going on to pursue their education after high school. And it's specific to Marshall. So Pride in the Tiger Foundation's whole mission is to support our students right here in Marshall.
Yeah, and specific to Marshall, but not just the public school. Any student in Marshall could qualify for some of the help from Pride in the Tiger.
Yes.
So when we think about what Pride in the Tiger does, this is things that make our classrooms, I think we do a great job as a school district to start with, but this is some of that extra, the icing on top, if you will, that maybe the school district can't afford in their budget, but Pride in the Tiger has some funds where they can make some of these extra things happen that just make the learning experience much better for our kids. And that's what we're all about, is making a great experience for our kids.
Absolutely. And I think we know, with learning, kids need multiple ways to learn things. So whether it's the teacher teaching it, maybe from reading it in a book, but also the hands-on activities. And so I do find that we will fund and support a lot of the hands-on things, science kits, books. math manipulative. Those are kind of some of the things that we really fund. And then we've really kind of ramped up some of our support of the career and technical education and providing the tools,
Right.
which can be costly for the school district to be able to add a lot of those classes and things. And so we've really tried to help support that as well.
Absolutely. It's been a great partnership to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about how Pride and the Tiger runs, because I think it's, we're here talking about it, but it's not me and you running this.
Right.
So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that board that runs that.
Yeah, so I am the executive director, so I kind of run the day-to-day, everything from the social media, the website, to depositing checks, to writing checks, all those kinds of things.
Show the displays in the gym are taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely, all the sponsorships, all of that. But we have a very dedicated board of directors who are very committed to supporting youth in our community from like all walks of business, all walks of areas in Marshall, and some have little kids, some have grown kids, but they're all really passionate about education. And so those board members really help drive what our foundation does and where we focus and where we spend our time. And so the foundation began in 1999, and it was a couple of people who were really passionate about supporting the future education of students in our schools, and it has just grown from there.
Yeah. I know I get to sit on that board with you and listen to that team have their conversations. It's an awesome experience to sit and listen to this group of professionals from around town. They take time out of their workday to come and sit and just talk about how can we support kids and how can we make these funds that we have be the best use of resources for the school district. It's a fun experience to have that conversation.
It is amazing, and their dedication to just ensuring that we maximize our giving and that we maximize that footprint that we have with supporting students is amazing, because like I said, some of them have little kids who are just getting into school, and some of them have students who've already graduated, but the passion is the same in what they want to provide for our youth.
So Pride and the Tiger has a lot of things taking place. Let's talk just about some highlights from recently.
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's so much. So we are in the midst of, we're really ramping up to our busy season. So we've been working on our new kind of initiatives related to CTE and trying to grow some support and sponsorships related to those programs within our schools. So we've been spending time on that. And we're coming up to our next grant cycle, so teachers can apply for a classroom grant. Anyone can, it doesn't have to just be a teacher, but people can apply for classroom grants. The deadline is March 1st, and so then we'll be reviewing all of those applications. We get anywhere from 50 to 80 applications a grant cycle. We review all of those, kind of look at where our budget is and determine what fits within our rubric for giving in those. And then we're also really starting the scholarship season, and that is a really busy time, along with continuing with our, get our sponsorships and just making sure we maintain those revenues so that we can continue to support all the great things that the schools are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly that busy time for everything. It all hits at once. But we think about the work that this group is doing. Now is the time of year that scholarships become important, and thinking about those pieces. So, I know you mentioned one of the focuses for Pride and the Tiger is those classroom impact grants. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Just thinking about that grant cycle coming up, what kinds of things, and you talked a little bit, and like what kind of dollar amount are we giving out? Let's just talk about that a little bit too.
I would say a typical cycle, we're going to give anywhere from $50,000 in a grant cycle. So we have one in October and then now one in March. And it really just depends on kind of where the requests are and where they come in. And sometimes it's as small as under $100, and sometimes it's as much as, $10,000, depending on what they're looking for. And it is really a variety of things, but we do have a rubric that we look at. We want it to, one, be something that's going to have some longevity. So it's not maybe a single-use item. It's something that's going to continue to be used within the classrooms or within the schools. We want to make sure it impacts a large number of students. We want to make sure it's something that enhances student learning. So it's very student-focused, and it has to be kind of correlated back to the curriculum or the standards that they're learning.
So if a teacher comes and says, I want to go do a training for myself, this group probably say no to that, because we're going to buy stuff for kids. The focus is on kids.
It is. We are truly all about the kids. We want to enhance whatever. And we recognize that, the teacher is a piece of that. And so we want to support them by providing them the different things that they need that maybe don't fit within the budget that can help enhance their lessons.
Right. I know one of the questions I've gotten before too is, well, how do you decide what happens? It's not just, well, here's $30,000, let's say, that we're going to give out. That's not how this works.
No.
It's you guys tell us what you need, and then the board goes through and says, okay, what can we afford to do?
Right.
But there's also some procedures behind it where the principal looks at it and says, yes, this would fit well with what we're doing.
Yep.
I know I look at those applications, and you look at those applications, and a lot of conversation on what is
Yes.
really needed and how can we best use the funds that we have, because these funds that we have are money that people have given to Pride in
Right.
the Tigers, saying we want this to support kids. So you're very, very careful, cautious, or very thoughtful, maybe is the right word, about
Yes.
how that's distributed.
Yes. And I would say our board is very conscious of recognizing what our mission is and making sure that whatever we do give fits within that, and that it really aligns with, standards, and really aligns with, and it's a simple one-page application, but we do ask for a lot of detail, and we do want the teachers to share with us, how does this impact their learning? How does it meet your objectives as, that particular standard? Or we want that information, just so that we can ensure that we're really being diligent about how we give the money out. It's not our money, it's donated money, and we want our donors and sponsors and those that give to the foundation to know that we are really being fiduciary responsible. We're being responsible with the money that they donate and ensuring that it gets used appropriately. And every building, whether public or private, the principal of that building reviews the applications before they come to me at the foundation.
Yeah, and some of those things, I think about field trips that happen, or I think about some of those extra readers in classrooms, or some of those science kits, those hands-on manipulative things that just make that learning experience so much more meaningful for our kids. Those are fun to see. I know I see a lot of pictures on Facebook where you post and say, hey, check this out. And that's fun to see, that that those things being used in action with the kids too. And our kids come home and talk about these events that are a lot of thanks to Pride in the Tiger.
And our hope is we want to give kids the experience that they may not have gotten had they not had that opportunity. And one of the things that I am really so impressed with is when we review all those applications, and sometimes the dollars are too high. We may have a $50,000 budget for that grant cycle, and we've got $100,000 in requests. So we really try to look, and if we can't give it all, we at least try to give partial. So that's why the detail is so important when we get those applications, so that we can understand, gosh, if we can't buy 3 sets of books, maybe we could buy 1, and they could apply again. And so we really do our best to try to support every request as much as possible. And I would say in the end, it's a very small percentage that we have to completely say no to, and whether that's because of budget or it just doesn't align with our mission.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, let's go to the other big part of Pride in the Tiger, the scholarship piece. That's huge every year. I know there's a great event that happens. Just talk a little bit about that process. And as you mentioned, coming into the busy time of the year, talk a bit about some of the work taking place to prepare for that.
So our scholarships are kind of set up in 2 different ways. We have endowed scholarships, and that is where a family or individuals give maybe a larger chunk of money, and we invest that through Bremer Wealth, and that kind of remains in perpetuity. It's there forever, and the idea is we really only want to spend or gift scholarships off of kind of the interest or the capital that's earned off of that invested money. And so the idea is we just want to keep this thing going forever. So we want to give valuable scholarships, but also make sure that they can be given for many, many years to come. The foundation began in '99. That's kind of the foundation of what we started with Pride in the Tiger, and just ensuring that that is maintained is really, really important to the board. And so we have those endowed scholarships, and we just met and talked about where the markets were at, and I think everyone's aware last year the markets weren't great, but they're improving, and so it's really good to see that, and I think this year is going to be a good year for giving for those scholarships. And then we have our annual scholarships. This community is so incredibly generous, and we have a lot of individuals and businesses that want to do a scholarship, but they're maybe not ready to donate $10,000 all at once. And so then on a yearly basis, in January, I send out letters and invoices to those individuals, and it can be, businesses, groups. I think about like the American Legion and the Eagles Club and some of our sororities in town. There's a lot of different groups and individuals that give to the scholarships. And so then I send a letter out, and then I'm collecting that money, and we just need to know by March 1st if they're going to continue with their scholarship. And then so we kind of organize that all together, and then it's organizing the scholarships, and now we're getting ready for the students to apply. So our seniors at Marshall High School will be getting that application opened next week. So they'll be getting a video from Mr. Jones and I about that, learning about the process. and they'll go ahead and apply. And it's much like a lot of scholarships. We want them to put their best foot, forward. We want them to share about what they've been involved in, and there's a lot of different questions. They provide information about what they've done in high school, activities, maybe what they've done outside of school, whether it's church or work or whatever. And then we committee reviews those, and they spend about 5 to 6 hours reviewing all the applications and looking where students fit with what scholarships. Now, one of the things that might be a little bit of a misconception is Pride in the Tiger Foundation does not decide the criteria for the scholarships, the donors do. So, Mr. Williams, if you were to come forward and say, I want to do a scholarship with Pride in the Tiger, I would ask you, great, what would you like that criteria look like? What kind of student do you want to receive the scholarship that you are sponsoring? And so our donors decide that, and some of the criteria is really specific to the school they're going to, specific to what they're going to study, specific to what kind of grade point average they have, and some are not. And so it just depends. And so that committee has their work cut out for them. It's a big puzzle to try to look at all the applicants and to see which students are most deserving of those scholarships, and who fits within those different criteria boxes.
You want to recognize as many kids as possible.
Absolutely, we
But
want to
there's 200 kids to go through,
exactly.
plus
And
a huge list of scholarships.
yeah, I mean, I wish I could say every student who applies is going to get a scholarship, and I can't say that. I
doesn't
can't.
always
It
work
just
that way.
doesn't always work that way because of the way the criteria and the scholarships, and they are academic-based scholarships, and so we are looking at how students do in school. Do they have to go to a 4-year college to get a scholarship? No. They can go to a trade school, a 2-year school, and still receive a scholarship, but we do have quite a few scholarships that are specific to 4-year schools, and so obviously we have to make sure that that's what their plans are. Now, we don't give the checks directly to the students, so we have our event on May 15th, 7 o'clock at the high school. It's different from what it used to be. It used to be this formal banquet, and we've kind of moved away from that just because of where the numbers are at and the length of time it would take.
It got to be a long evening.
It got to be a long evening for busy families at a very busy time of year. But I still think the staff just does such a wonderful job of making it personal and unique to the students who are receiving the scholarships. And it's a really nice event. They go home with a nice box of desserts so that they can open their scholarship envelopes with their family and enjoy a dessert together. I think it's a really nice event to recognize just all the hard work that the students have put in over the years. And then the next exciting part is in July. We write checks to the schools. So students fill out a senior survey as they get towards the end of their senior year, and they tell us where they're going to go to school, and then their scholarship check gets cut actually to that school. We don't give the money to the kids.
Right.
So so then we're writing the checks, and I handwrite all those checks, and we send them out to the schools, and it's so fun to run into the kids when they're home on break and things like that, just to hear how it's going. So it's a big process, and it's certainly not just in May. It starts in January and it ends in July, and then we kind of start it all over again. So.
Yep. And kids are kind of building up to that over their 4 years in high school.
Absolutely, yeah. Their involvement, it's so, we really are looking at well-rounded kids, you know, so it's obviously GPA and, you know, the academics that they focus on in school are a piece of it, but then it's also their involvement in activities and clubs and music and speech and, you know, all of those things that play a part in their eligibility.
Make all those pieces fit together. It's a huge job.
Yes,
But certainly appreciate your work with that.
Yeah.
So I know something I want to hit on is every year when we talk about that scholarship amount, the amount that's given, it's not like it's always, I mean, we're talking big dollars. We're talking in the realm of $200,000 a year. But it's not always the same amount. So let's talk a little bit about that. You mentioned one side of it is it's based off the markets. If the markets are well, there's more money to give, are doing well, it's more to give away. But some years there's less.
Right.
But it's also based off of, there's new scholarships all the time,
Yes.
which is exciting. So talk a little bit about that because there are some new ones.
Yes, and so, you know, I've been doing some comparing. I presented to the school board, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and I was looking at the numbers, and our annual scholarships have really grown. Our endowment fund continues to grow, and it's in a healthy place. Like last year, you know, we dipped a little because of the markets, but we're back to being, I think, really strong again in those endowed funds, and we've added some endowed funds. One of the newer endowments, or two of the newer endowments that we have, are the James T. Rowe Fund, and so that's a new scholarship that will be offered. He was a passionate math educator, and he wants it to go to someone who's going to be studying math, and a very generous donation from him. And then Bruce and Vicki Lamprecht, as we know, Bruce is, well, Vicki's a retired teacher for many years, and Bruce worked in our district office, and so they've put together a scholarship focused on supporting anyone who's going into education or business, which kind of fits with what Bruce and Vicki are passionate about. And so we have those two, and then we have some annual scholarships. Lockwood Motors has sponsored a scholarship, Sunrise Rotary, And then the class of 1973 had a reunion this last summer, and they had some extra money, and so they reached out and wanted to do a scholarship for this year. So there's always kind of different ways people come forward for those scholarships. Sometimes it's in memory of somebody. Sometimes it's like an event, and they raise some money and they want to give. So those are always fun, and that's a great way to grow our scholarship base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always fun to give some of those groups tours and show them the schools and talk about how this has all changed
yeah.
too. So.
Yeah, and our alumni are proud of being part of Marshall Public Schools, and I see that over and over again. We have some of our annual scholarships that are literally funded by alumni who are honoring a friend or a classmate that maybe passed away. And
So that pride in the Tiger really fits in. This is showing their pride in where they went to school.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So if someone's listening right now and they said, I would love to participate or donate for a scholarship,
Yeah.
what should they do?
Well, you can go to prideinthetiger.org, and there's tons of information on our website. It also will give you my email address or how to reach out to me. There's a contact form on the website as well. You can call Marshall High School and ask for the Pride in the Tiger office. That is where my office is. And and it's just a matter of me kind of finding out what your wishes are. The whole goal is it's not about what we want. It's about how do we honor kind of what you want. And as a donor, what do you want to emphasize? What is important to you? What kind of student do you want to recognize? And so we just facilitate the scholarships.
Right.
We really want it to be about what the donors want.
Right.
So.
And even if they don't want to donate, but they just want to ask some more questions about Pride in the
Yes.
Tiger, same way to
Yes.
contact you.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Prideinthetiger.org.
Great. My last question.
Okay.
Is there anything I haven't asked you about that you want to share with our listeners about Pride in the Tiger?
Probably the biggest thing is if you have ever been if your children or you as a community member have ever benefited from a classroom grant or a scholarship or anything like that, I just, thank our community. This Marshall community is so incredibly generous, and sometimes they want to give, they just don't know how. And so I think that's been one of the big missions that we've had, is just to kind of help educate them about the things that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, they come forward. And so if you go to the Marshall High School gym and you see all the signs in the gym, please, go to those
Support those
businesses,
people, yeah.
support those businesses. They are so generous to give back to our schools. If you happen to go out to the CTI Center and you see our donor wall there and you see all the individuals and the people, thank them, because we just have a very generous community, and we are just so lucky that we can ask, and that they trust us to support our students in so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a powerful statement when we see that. And this isn't like, we're not knocking on doors and calling people saying, it's
No.
not like a telethon, hey, we need money, because that's not the case. But we certainly are looking for that support of the schools, and we're getting phone calls from people saying, I want to be part of this, or an
Yes.
email saying, hey, I would love to come see that. Can you tell me more?
Exactly.
And that's where these partnerships grow, and we can work together and really provide more and more for our kids, which is that's what we're here for, is to provide the
Yes.
best opportunities we can for our kids.
Yeah.
So.
And I've lived in the Marshall community a long time, and I've always been impressed, whether I worked at the school or not. Prior to that, I was on the Community Services Board, and our community collaborates so well together, whether it's businesses, SMSU, the city of Marshall, the schools, working together to just do great things for our kids is, it always amazes me, but it's been going on for a long time, and it continues to be such a strength for Marshall.
Yeah, it's a great community to live in.
Yes,
So.
it is.
Appreciate you, Krista, and all
Yeah.
that you do, and coming to join us today. I know it's
Yes.
not always the funnest thing when you get called to come to a Tiger Talk, but I appreciate you doing it with me.
Yes, thank you.
Listeners, we appreciate you listening and look forward to seeing you again next month.